coming back tonight. This weekend, I'm sure has probably looked and felt a little different than what you would think. Like, normally you think like youth revival, you think evangelist, and like in those moments, in those times, like you kind of feel like that person's going to come in and just be like, that's not really what I do. Like, I would love to be able to do that, but I don't do that. Now, I enjoy whenever going to a church service and like whenever people do that, but that's just not me. I love to teach. I'm more of a teacher. I feel that that really the best way to dive into God's word is to really understand what is God's word saying. Then how can I take what it said and apply it into my life? And so I try to make things so simple and the application piece so easy that you can take a look at it and go, oh, that's exactly how I can do that. And so that's what we're going to continue in tonight here. We're going to probably look at one of the most famous passages when it comes to youth and it comes to who you are and what you do, and that is 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. And if you've been in church long enough, you've been in church long enough to almost despise this verse every time it pops up whenever you are a youth, because it feels like, oh, here we go. It's like, man, I thought this dude was going to say something good tonight. And it's the same old, same old. Well, hopefully it's not the same old, same old. Hopefully tonight we're going to put a bit of a different spin and a bit of a different twist on it, that you will be able to grasp it, get a hold of it, and walk away with something new. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12 says, "Let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers an example in speech and conduct and love and faith and in purity." So we're going to break down all of these pieces here, and we're going to talk about what it means and how that you are the example. How that you are the ones that set the tone everywhere that you go. There is a bit of a concept that's been around. It's been around for a long time, but there's been a bit of a concept that's around that is the difference between a thermostat and a thermometer. A thermometer can tell you, here's what the room is. A thermostat changes the atmosphere of a room. So a thermostat can either make you sweat buckets, or a thermostat can make you freeze to death. It just depends on what the thermostat is going to do, because at that moment, you are now setting the tone and the temperature of what the room is going to be. You have the opportunity every single day to set the tone and the temperature of every person that's around you. Whenever you wake up of a morning, don't allow the circumstances to tell you this is what you're going to do. Unless it's your parents, and then you absolutely do exactly what they've told you to do. But you do not let all the circumstances, you don't let all the things that are there tell you this is what I'm going to do. Don't allow the aggravations in life. Don't allow the frustrations in life. Don't allow the pop quizzes that come in school. Don't allow, do y'all just still do pop quizzes in school? Like they just have a test out random, like nowhere? No? Oh, man, that's awful. That's awful. I'm pretty sure our teachers hated me when I was in high school because we had pop quizzes all the time. And then they found out we got to stop. Maybe this is why we found out we got to stop doing them, because we got to get these kids out of here. If they keep failing everything, they keep staying. And we don't want them staying any longer than they need to. They've already worn their welcome out, and they're just a kindergartner. So, I mean, but don't allow the circumstances. So what are some of the circumstances? Well, number one could be your youth. It's your age. It is the quote-unquote inexperience that you have in life, which I will tell you, I truly believe that you guys have a little bit more experience than what some of us older people give you credit for. So a little bit of background, I kind of talked about a little bit about this last night, but I work, so my family, we're from Missouri, we live in Springfield, Missouri. I work for a nonprofit in Springfield, and the nonprofit that I work for, we work with kids who are considered at risk. The majority of the youth that I work with are foster kids. 16 to 24 is the age range that we work with. There are kids that I work with that are 16, 17, 18 years old that have already lived 15 lifetimes already, the age that they're in. And so for me to get here and tell you that, you may not have that life experience, that some of us may look and say, well, you just haven't maybe done the things that they've listed off, but you do have life experience. And in fact, whenever I'm looking to hire people, the number one thing that I'm looking for is lived experience. Because I want to know what you've been through. I want to know that you know what you're about to be talking about. Whenever you sit down and you begin to work with somebody and you have a conversation with somebody, I want to know that you know exactly who it is you're talking to and what conversations you're going to have with them while you're talking to them. And in this passage here, the author is telling little Timmy here, don't let anybody despise you. Don't let anybody look down on you. Are they going to? Yes. Are they going to reject you maybe because you're young? Yes. But don't allow that to get in and seep in and stay in here, and for you just to clam up and not say anything whenever you know that you need to speak up, whenever you know that you need to talk. So don't allow these circumstances, don't allow these different things to get in the way to kind of just, push you down, move you over to the side, and not allow yourself to speak or even allow yourself to have a voice. As we talked about last night, you have a voice. You have a voice. You are, again, we did this last night, I'm going to do it again, but I see you. And not like, well, duh, you're looking at me. No, like I see you. I hear you. You are valued. You are loved. And hopefully, above anything else, when you walk into buildings like this, all across this whole area down here, I hope that every time you walk into a building that has been deemed a church, you walk into a building and you are seen, and you are heard, and you are valued, and you are loved. You have something to say. You have something to add to everything that goes on in every service, in every conversation, in every community, in anything that's happening. You have value to add to it. And if you don't get anything else out of tonight, that's what I want you to understand and to know. Somebody asks you, what'd you do last night? You say, some old dude told me that he sees me and he valued and he knows that I'm valued. Because you are. You have a purpose. You have a calling. You have a reason. What it is, I don't know yet. If you know what it is, go after it. If you don't know what it is, you keep seeking until you find what that is. Don't let anybody look down on you. A few years ago, because of the nonprofit that I work for, I got privileged to go out to California. And while I was in California, I got to sit in on a very large conference of people your age and some older people my age, but the mainly it was more for people your age, and we got to sit at Facebook headquarters, and we got to be there, and I listened as 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old entrepreneurs for their community begin to speak and share. I listened to a girl who was 14 years old at the time talk about how she had already raised $4.5 million for the water crisis in Flint. So don't tell me that you don't have value. Don't tell me you don't have a purpose. You have it. She didn't allow anyone to look at her and say, you're just 14, you can't do anything. 14 years old raised $4.5 million. I sat and I listened to other 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who are serving on boards in their communities to help eradicate homelessness in major cities across the United States. And as I began to sit there, and as I took notes and as I watched these kids, and honest to God, I'm taking pictures of some of these kids because I'm like, I don't know who you're going to be in like 15, 20 years, but I want to be able to say, I knew you when. So that at some point I can look back and say, remember the little people that was here, that was cheering you on at the very beginning. And it was so neat. And as we continued to be in this conference, and as we spent the entire weekend in California and meeting with these people and connecting with all these different types of youth and these different organizations and people from DC all the way over to California, from Minnesota down to South Texas. I mean, there was just people everywhere. This scripture kept rolling over and over and over in my head. Don't let anyone despise you because you're young. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something because you're just a kid. Because here's the deal. No matter how old you get, in somebody's eyes, you're always going to be a kid. You're always going to be a kid in somebody's eyes. But don't let anyone look down on you because of that. Your age does not limit you. Paul's telling Timothy here, he's a young leader in the church. Don't be nervous. Don't feel like you're unqualified, because if God says you're the person, you're qualified. If you are the person to do this, that is all the qualifications that you need. Education helps, but that right there is what you need. You need that. Paul reminds him and us that age is not a barrier when it comes to God. Age is just a number. Age is just something that's there. It's not something that is just it's not a qualifier, and it's not a disqualifier. Because God will point out and pick, I want this person, I want this person, I want this person. Great, you've been marked. When's it going to happen? Whenever God says go. That's when it happens. You've been marked at birth. You've been marked whenever you were being formed in your mama's belly. And God has marked you, and at some point in time, God is going to look back and he's going to go on, get, and it's time to go. It's time to get in and do what you need to do. Kind of like a football coach standing on the sidelines, and he's just looking up and down, and everybody's out there, and you know, some people are just kind of making a mess, and some people are doing it right, and other people are just standing on the sidelines just waiting like, let me do it, let me do it, let me do it. And then some people go in and they get hit right in the mouth, and they come, I ain't never doing that again, man, that hurt. But then there's others that's like, let me do it, let me do it, let me do it. And God's like, all right, go. And then there they go. You're never too young to make a difference. You're never too young to not make a mark. I think about David. David was just a little fellow whenever he went and faced the giant Goliath. And when all the armies, when everyone was out there and everybody was looking and everybody was trying to figure out how we're going to take down the giant, how we're going to do this, how are we going to do all that, David just come rolling up with some snacks. David come rolling up with bento boxes and was like, all right, who's ready to eat? And he was like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, this guy's, he's tricky. And David was like, I can do it. Like, no, you can't. So I can do it. I mean, good grief. Like, I don't know. David was probably, somewhere around in here. Just a little fella when everybody else was like all like this. David was like, I got him. And all the big boys was like, yeah, I bet you do. And he's like, no, I got him. I can do it. And he grabs his rocks. He grabs a slingshot. I saw a video of a guy who was imitating what that probably looked like. That's the craziest video I've ever seen in my life. This guy's got this big old slingshot type thing, and he's like whirling around his head, and all of a sudden, like, he gets this big old spin and goes around and like hits it, and like there's this big like gong cymbal, and this dude dented the gong cymbal with the rock. I saw that and I was like, no, ain't no way. That hit me, I'd die too. And if I didn't, I'd act like I was dead so I wouldn't get hit again. But David did it. He didn't let his age limit him. Even whenever all the voices around him were saying, you're too young, you can't do this. Bigger people, better people, smarter people can't figure this out. There's no way you can figure this out. But he defied everyone and did it. He defied all the odds and did it himself. So let's jump into here and let's take a look at this verse and let's kind of dissect a little bit here. So he's saying here, let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers an example in your speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity. So let's talk about speech for a second. What you say matters. The words you use not only can tear people down or build them up, but it can tear you down or build you up. There is nothing more frustrating for me than to hear people talk about how ugly they look and how fat they feel and how that nobody like this and these clothes don't look good on this and this don't look good this way and this, and I'm just sitting there going, shut up. Stop tearing yourself down like that. But in the same sense, the people that you are surrounded with, don't tear them down either. Use your speech to build up everyone around you. If you are a self-proclaimed, and even not, if everyone else says, oh, you are. But if you're a self-proclaimed positive person, then allow that positivity to flood everywhere that's around you. And when people start talking in a negative tone and they start cutting everybody else down, stop the conversation. Build people up. Use the talents and the gifts and whatever it is. If you are a words of affirmation person, then you're good. You're good to go. Because you are able to just spread that love everywhere that you go. Spread that wealth everywhere that you're at. And be able to share that with each and every person that you come in contact with and let them know that again, that they are valued and that they are seen and they are heard. James 3:5 says, so also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How can a great forest be set ablaze by such a small fire? Your tongue is the key to building people up. The words that you use, the speech that comes out of your mouth, the things that you do can lift a room or destroy a room in seconds. You're the catalyst. You're the key. You've got to be the one to stand up when everybody else is talking junk. You're the one that's got to shut it all down. It's not the most popular thing that you're going to hear me say tonight, but it's the truth. You've got to stop conversations when conversations are being had. When people are just jawing at each other and they're just hollering and bickering and yelling and everything that's going on, you've got to be the one to allow your speech to be the things that puts out the fire. Allow your speech to be the thing that is the most peaceful thing that happens in the room. Allow yourself to be the one to come in and change it. Again, we're the thermostat, not the thermometer. Speak words that show kindness, encouragement, and truth. Whenever you speak, does your voice sound like Jesus, or does it sound like everybody else? You have got to make sure that in all things that you're doing, your speech is there. And if your speech is not there, then you need to talk to God and you need to say, fix it. If it's an attitude problem, if it's just the filter that God gave you, you lost it years ago and you have no idea where it's at, then you ask God to help you find that filter again or give you a new filter. Or some of you maybe need 17 filters. I don't know. But you ask God to help you in that speech because you got to be the one that is setting that example. You set the example. Sometimes I'll say the quiet thing out loud. Sometimes us adults need you as kids to be the example in speech. Sometimes we need you to be the one that reminds us, probably shouldn't say that. Sometimes we need you to be the ones to either say that, or sometimes we need you to be the one to begin to say something to let us know, you really do pay attention, and I need to stop saying that, or I need to stop acting that way. Set the example. Set the example in what you do. Secondly, here, we're talking about conduct. Your actions speak louder than words. The way you treat your friends, family, and even strangers shows what's in your heart. Now, are people going to get on your nerves? Yep. Oh, I heard an oh yeah. So yeah, it's Sunday. It's already been a day for somebody. So yeah. People going to try you? Yeah. We talked about it last night. Try Jesus. Don't try me. Yeah. It's a real thing. That conduct, whatever's in here eventually is going to make its way out here. Set that example. Let everyone know what's on the inside. Are you showing respect to your teachers? Are you helping people that are in need, even when no one's watching? When it's just you? You ever been, it has speech here, speech and conduct, but have you ever been caught? Like around the corner, like, man, I tell you what, that's the dumbest, hey, how's it going? What'd you say? I didn't say nothing. I don't know what you heard, but you heard it wrong. I don't know what you heard. And now you just all of a sudden, you rambling on the longest compound sentence that has ever been created in humankind because you try to pull everything back out of the atmosphere that you just put in there. Allow your conduct, whether someone's there or someone's not, allow the joy of the Lord that's inside of your heart to live on the outside of your heart. We're not a secret agent. We're not going around going, oh, I'm happy on the inside, but I gotta let everybody know I'm depressed and sad on the outside. It don't work that way. It doesn't work like that. And I know we talked about this a little bit last night, but we live in such a society that where your generation is the most stressed out generation that this world has ever seen. Your anxiety levels are 15 to 20% higher than just the national average of anxiety. But if you don't live there, don't act like you live there to try and fit in. We've not been called to fit in. We've been called to stand out. We've been called to be a light. The last time I checked, a light can't hide. A light busts and breaks up every shadow it comes into contact with. A light destroys darkness every time that it enters into whatever space it is. So you have been created to stand out. In conduct, you're not just representing you, you're representing Jesus. We talk about love. Love isn't just a feeling, it's an action. It's about choosing to care for others even when it's hard. And the biggest word there is choosing. You have to choose to love people. It is a choice. Jesus said in John 13:35, "By this all people will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another." You got to show love. You got to be love. How do you love the unlovable? You ask Jesus to help you. And I know, like I said, most of the youth that I work with are in foster care. And this is a very hard topic to kind of, whenever we go through our curriculum with a lot of our youth. This one's a very hard topic to really just kind of wrap your heads around, to figure out what does this look like, because there are legitimate monsters in this world. There are real monsters in this world. The Bible says that the devil's come to steal, kill, and destroy. To me, the definition of a monster is someone that is set up to steal, kill, and destroy anything that you ever have or anything that you ever want. And if that is the case, then that person is being 100% influenced by the devil. So in some way, shape, or form, you've got to figure out, how do I separate the person from the action? And in that moment, that's where you go to God, and that's when you begin to talk to God, and you begin to ask him, help me to know and to understand. Help me to love the way that you love, because you got to remember, Jesus just didn't die for the saints. He died for the monsters too. So we've got to figure out what this looks like. We've got to figure out how to love. We've got to figure out what this means. Small application piece could be finding those that look left out, that feel left out, that are left out, and bringing them in. Large application piece is asking God to help you figure out, how do I love? How do I love this person the way that you love them? And in some sense, honestly, I think in some sense the way that you do that is to find forgiveness. And then you're able to love. Doesn't mean they're buddy-buddy, doesn't mean that you're hanging out with them all the time, but you've found a way to do that. We next looked at faith. Faith isn't just believing in God, it's living like you believe in Him. It's trusting God even when things don't make sense. Faith isn't just believing in God, it's living like you believe in God. It's one thing to say, I'm the strongest man in the world. And it's another thing to actually pick up all the weights and prove that you are the strongest man in the world. Having that faith to be able to just, set that example there. Hebrews 11:1 says, now faith is assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Give it to God and allow Him to do what He does best, and that is to fix situations, fix problems, turn things around, get you to the place of where you want to be. And then lastly here, he talks about purity. Purity means living with a clean heart and a clean mind. It's about making choices that honor God. It says in Psalms, who can ascend to the mountaintop? A person with clean hands and a pure heart. Purity is not just abstaining from sex before marriage. Purity is pure. It is abstaining from anything that is going to cause you to grow up faster than you need to. Purity is anything that is going to set you back from not being able to see things clearly as you used to before. It's that childlike wonder of where little kids are just little kids. And you look at them and you go, man, what I wouldn't give. Not because of the bills and the pressure and all the different things, but just to look at a little kid and be like, man, what I wouldn't give to be 5, 6, 7 years old all over again. And being in that place and being in that spot to where it's just, you're living the most purest life that you could live. And where every laugh is the purest giggle you've ever heard. That's the type of purity that we're talking about here. In a world that's full of distractions and temptations, purity is about saying no to things that pull away from Jesus and yes to things that pull you closer to Him. We're going to learn a new word tonight. Now, it's not too new, because you probably say this to your parents all the time, but we're going to learn a new word tonight. And this is the word that you're going to learn to start saying to your friends. It's called no. Now, I know y'all probably say it to your parents all the time, no, I ain't doing that, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. No, I ain't doing that. I said that once to my mom. I never say it again, but I said it once. But there's a phrase that you need to start learning to say whenever other things come up against you, and whenever people are trying to, in a sense, stain and tarnish what you're trying to achieve as to be greatness. And for us as Christians, the greatness aspect should be getting to heaven. And there are going to be people, if they're not already, are going to try and distract you, are going to try and confuse you, are going to try and misconstrue anything and everything that they possibly can to get you to even question, is this right? We talked about it all weekend, but it started in the garden with Adam and Eve. And the snake confused Eve because he was so charming and so cunning, and his language was just enough confusing that it really questioned if that's what God had really said. Did God really say you would die? Like, you take a bite and you're dying immediately, like your teeth begin to melt out of your mouth. Then you start choking on your tongue, and then you're just dead. Like, is that what is like? You think God just, like, you're brand new. God just made you. Like, would he really do that? You still got the price tag on you. Like, you think God is going to do that? But there are going to be people. There's going to be things. There's going to be stuff that's going to come out. And I'm telling you, you better keep your mind pure. You better keep your influences pure. You better keep your circle pure. Because I'm telling you, every person that's on Spotify is not trying to get you closer to Jesus. Whatever you're listening to, they ain't worried about if you're going to go to heaven or not. Because the devil, the Christian's job is to make sure that heaven is bigger than hell. The devil's job is to make sure that hell is bigger than heaven. And it's up to you to figure out which one's going to be bigger. Because at the end of the day, when your life is over, God's not going to say, well, you got confused 4 times. The threshold is 6. So you're good. Come on in. You just barely made it because you only got confused and tripped up 6 times. That's not how it works. You better make sure that the people you're running with are keeping you close to Jesus. And we'll take church out of this here just for a second. You better make sure that the people that you're running with have your best interest at heart and are pushing you to be the best version of who you are. Just even at the most basic level of life, that they're pushing you to be the best version of who you are. If God has blessed you athletically, if God has blessed you mentally, if God has blessed your hands that anything you touch, you can put things back together or you can make things out of nothing, then you better make sure that that you're surrounding yourself with people that's going to push you to be that best version of who you are. You don't need to let anybody and everybody come around and trip you up and get you off track and get you off course. And when you're sitting in your mind going, oh man, back in my day, this way. Nobody cares about what your day was back then. Everybody's worried about what you're doing right now. It's been said that shoulda, woulda, coulda is 3 sisters. They ain't never done anybody no good. Put yourself in circles that people see you for who you are and are not seeing you as a meal ticket or not seeing you as just somebody that they can hide behind your shadow. You put yourself in circles of people that is going to push you to be the best. Now we bring church back into it. We have something even more. We've got God living inside of us. The Bible says that the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead lives inside of you. You've got that, so how much more can you be if God's living in here? How much more good can you do if God is living on the inside of you? How much better of an influence can you be? How much of an influence can you be so that people look at you, instead of seeing you, they see Him? Allow yourself to get to that place. Allow yourself to be there. Keep your circle clean. Keep your circle pure. The people that you associate with, the people, your boys, your girls, keep them pure. Make sure that's who they are. That they're holding you accountable for your relationship with God, and you're holding them accountable for their relationship with God. I've got 5 people on my list that I can send the stupidest memes to at any point in time in my life. And I do, on a daily basis. But those 5 people also have permission to tell me and ask me, how's your prayer life? How's your walk with Jesus doing today? Some new people in the room, and appreciate y'all being here tonight. A couple weeks ago, we were in a really bad wreck. My relationship with God, it's always been solid. My relationship has elevated even more because I've watched how God spared my life and spared my entire family. Our vehicle rolled twice before coming to a complete stop. And this was a week and a half ago. And here I am, everything still moves. And it doesn't move in weird directions, it moves in the right direction it's supposed to. I've had that before. Broke my arm playing football. Was running to the sidelines, watching everybody's eyes get really big. It was snowing, it was super cold. Everybody's eyes are huge. I'm like, what's going on? I look down and my arm's just flopping while I'm running. I'm like, yeah, I'd be doing the same thing too. But thank God we wasn't doing that a couple weeks ago. But even in that moment there, I still had my circle of people reach out. Things still good with you and Jesus? It's like, it's never been better. Because sometimes things are going to come up to trip you up. And you're going to step back and you're going to question, you're going to wonder, man, God, was this you? Where are you at? Why were you not here? Why'd you not stop? Why'd you not cause the other person to stop? But again, God works all things out for the good. Some things are really head scratchers, where you step back and go, God, I don't know how you're going to turn this into good, but I'm here for the ride. Make sure that your circle is your circle, and that your circle is going to push you to not only be a better human being, but to be even a better, more better. Like, can't say this without being so grammatically incorrect, but way, 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 way more better of a Christian than a human being. Find yourself being in that place. Find yourself getting there. Find yourself being with those people. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Everything. Everything that you do flows from it. Your brain may be the computer that tells your body what to do. But your heart is what makes people want to be close to you or makes people want to be farther away from you. Whatever you have inside of here is going to bleed out. And people are going to feel that love, that joy. People are going to feel all those different things, or they ain't going to be around you. So what do we do with tonight? What do we do? How do you end this? Because again, like I said at the very beginning, this has not been one of those like type of messages. So like, what do we do? How do we do this? Well, here's what we're going to do. If there's some things that we listed off tonight that you say, I got problems with. We're going to ask the Lord to help you. With your speech, with your conduct, with your faith, with your love, and with your purity. And if there's some things going on, and again, does not necessarily mean that you're not living a Christian life. It just means that you've got some problems and you've got some struggles and you've got some people that you have surrounded yourself with that have really confused you or have really muddied up the waters, and you're not able to see clearly the way you need to be seen. So if a worship team would come on back up. Tonight I'm not going to leave you hanging dry like I did last night. You're going to work tonight. But if you're in here tonight and you say, first off, we'll do this just to make sure we're setting an even ground before we get going anywhere else. But if you're in here tonight and you say, Jeff, I do not have a relationship with Jesus. Maybe you tried to have a relationship with God and it just didn't work out for whatever reason. Either you just really weren't super serious about it, or there was just still a lot of things that you weren't willing to give up yet. Or maybe you've never had a relationship with God. Maybe you've never been put yourself in a position to where that you've allowed him to be Lord, that you've allowed him to be Savior. We talked about this morning in Psalms 23 that you've allowed him to be your shepherd. You've allowed him to be the one to guide you and direct your paths and help you get out of the places that you need to get out of.